Oh, well, of course. Everything looks bad if you remember it.
Hey kids, welcome to Grumpy Nostalgia Remembers Only Edition, special podcast series where, just like the iconic jacket suggests, we look back at how cool we thought we were in a moment frozen by time, only to realize later the harsh reality of our shame and failure. I'm Justin, that's Mike.
Are we there yet?
And together we're drudging up our embarrassing pasts for your collective amusement. So Mike, it's freezing cold, it's the middle of the winter, so it's probably off topic to be talking about this, but we're discussing briefly the other day some of the trials and tribulations of growing up back in the 70s.
Yeah, our timing is great, isn't it? We watched
Yeah.
We talked about Godfather 3 before we watched the first 1 and 2. It's
And no one's ever accused us of having a plan. But
That's right.
we started to think a little bit about the act of traveling and getting out in the when we were kids in the 70s. And back then, air travel wasn't as affordable. There was no such thing as Spirit Airlines or Southwest. Flying somewhere was usually reserved for royalty. And that meant if we wanted to take a summer vacation, we probably had to hoof it or get in the backseat of the family car and take off driving. And we thought it'd be fun to kind of flush that out, to talk about the family vacation, like tales from the backseat, Mike.
Oh, yes. Do we have a narrator that has really bad hair and looks like a skeleton?
Well, it's funny you mentioned skeletons and all that. So I guess you had to encapsulate the vacation experience traveling in the car back in the 70s. It was really one of like safety was kind of thrown out the window. You essentially take 4 to 6 humans, throw them in a metal box with no escape plan, and then you'd head out into the great frontier, Mike, with some sort of destination hotspots.
Yeah.
And you'd load up the car and you'd drive with no, iMaps or anything like that. You brought an almanac or a road atlas. Remember those, Mike?
Oh, yeah, yeah. My dad always got the free maps from the Exxon station that they provided, with the tiger on it. And
Right, right.
they would have like a map for the Carolinas or a map for like the whole eastern U.S., and he would mark it out in little pins and everything and have it all ready to go before we even took off.
I remember being impressed by that when I was very, very young, but then I realized that looking back, that I think our fathers really kind of overestimated their worth in terms of suddenly they're Magellan, they make a lot of map.
Astrolab and like a protractor and a compass. Yeah, it seemed.
Yeah, it's like the only time like my dad would break out his readers and he'd like pull over to the side of the road and he'd like carefully plan out the next route for the next 3 or 4 hours. But
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because I try to recreate some of the trips my dad did, and
yeah.
just using Google Maps. And hey, somehow he seemed to make better time than I did. I don't know what he was doing or how recklessly he was driving, but he seemed to do pretty good.
It's weird because it's an interesting point because I guess we're in the transitional generation because when we started driving and taking trips, we didn't have the iPhone guides. I think the first iteration of that technology was like TomTom or things like that.
Oh yeah, Garmin, yeah, that
Garmin,
stuff.
yeah. So I remember taking quests with my girlfriend, now is my wife. We would go to like Graceland, and we had no idea how to get there. We just had we would follow road signs and an atlas. 5 or 6 years later, of course, we had it was all taken care of for us. Siri would tell us what interstate to take and all that kind of stuff. But back then, we would have to we were on our own, and it kind of made the adventure a little more exciting in a weird way.
Yeah, I like the idea of of planning it out, but sometimes when you got lost, you could just like a teenage horror movie, you actually could take a wrong turn somewhere and end up somewhere really weird. When that's where that'd be the most talked about part of your vacation sometimes, at least with my family.
Oh yeah, I remember getting lost in some very sketchy areas in like
Yeah,
Detroit and Toronto and places in Michigan. They were just out in the boondocks, and I'm just driving around thinking, "Okay, Dad, what's your plan?"
yeah. What's going on here?
All right.
It's like the scene from the original Vacation where he's
Right,
Chevy Chase is driven into a bad part of Chicago or
right.
something.
It's like,
What up, Holmes?
yeah,
Yeah.
who are we gonna eat first? So some of our, we didn't really have high lofty, destination vacations. We were probably more practical in our kind of
Yeah.
modest financial environment when I was growing up. So, Disney, those kind of things were off the chart, really. We had those kind of forced appreciation type vacations where we would go see landmarks, like Niagara Falls or Mount
Oh yeah.
Rushmore. So, what about your family, Mike? You probably traveled quite a bit more than we did, but what were some of your common destinations?
Well, it's weird. It's a psychological thing where, you do more, as an adult than what y'all used to do growing up.
Yeah.
Like now we never ate out. We ate out like twice a year. So now I eat out all the time. Same
Hmm.
goes to travel. I try to travel as much as I can because when I was a kid, we didn't really go anywhere unless it was government funded. Let's say.
Uh,
My dad's job, he had a car, like a government car, and he was allowed to use that to go on like trips to the beach or the mountains or to the national conventions that he belonged to. He was a regional planner, and we would always drive to they were called the NARC conventions, uh, National Association of Regional Councils. So don't get the wrong idea.
yeah, sure,
Um,
whatever. If you say so.
But they would be like it would be they would meet somewhere different in the U.S. every time, and like you said, we didn't travel by air; we would have to go by car. So,
Yeah.
we ended up going to like Houston and Niagara Falls and
Niagara Falls!
Chicago, Boston, Miami. No, it was always by car every year, and
Yeah.
those are very memorable trips because like I said, we didn't do that often.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'd go in the corporate. It was always a Chevrolet Malibu or a Chevrolet Impala.
Right.
Basically indestructible boxes of metal.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it was the best trips ever. My brother was about 6 years older than me, so he was already out of the picture by the time we did a lot of these trips.
Okay.
And
So you were flying solo back there?
a lot of times, yeah. And
Yeah.
I was a real nerd. I would take a little journal and I would write down what the odometer setting was whenever we crossed like a river or like a major city or a landmark,
Yeah.
and I'd write it down. I still have these little things I kept from back then, like,
Yeah.
and it was cool because my dad, like, he didn't just go straight to a place. He was like, "Hey, let's stop and see the St. Louis Arch, or let's go see the land between the lakes, or let's go see downtown Pittsburgh," on the way to places. And he took his time, which, now looking back on, it, I'm like, wow, he really wanted us to make sure we saw this, and I know he wanted to see it too. But it was like I really appreciate the time he took to actually do this. And like I said, I try to recreate some of these trips that he did, and I'm like, he must have been busting his rear end to make it to some of these places like he did,
Yeah.
and I don't know how he did it. Like I said, I'm trying to do it with my son, and I can't, make the same time he did. But yeah, it was great, and I, it was weird. I was just thinking today about like he would only go to certain gas stations that took credit cards because he had to use his business credit card.
Right.
And it was the
Right.
opposite of the day. It's like it was so hard to find places that actually took, the little credit card. And none of the gas stations you had full service, so he never wanted that. He always tried to avoid get those greased monkeys to come out and try to actually wipe your windshield and all that. So
Yeah.
he had to plan the trip around where gas stations were and around where really good restrooms were. Like he was a big rest area guy.
Right. Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
you had to stop at a rest area and it had to be a clean restroom for my dad. You couldn't.
Right.
If it wasn't, he would go down the road and go to a McDonald's and use theirs and pretend he's going to buy a drink or something.
Right.
But that was him. And yeah, I mean, it was just there's so many memories I have. I have more memories of us being on the road sometimes than us actually being at home. And I guess it
Yeah.
just
Isn't
kind
that
of
isn't that weird? Because I,
it
I guess
is. It is.
yeah.
It's crystallized. It's kind of like a flashbulb memory that's, just doesn't go away.
It just kind of it sets itself apart from like the day-to-day grind you had growing up. So I
Oh
remember
yeah.
a lot of my vacations with the more with that clarity, same way. But our scenarios were slightly different. Most of our vacations were like they're kind of co-opted into like family visits. So we had like family
Yeah.
in other states. So we would drive to like West Virginia every couple of years or so. And we were very, very young. And then, car sickness was always a thing, especially back then. I remember we didn't have like the laissez-faire kind of attitude. Ours were kind of destination driven, more
I
quest
gotcha.
purpose. So my dad was really like, let's just make time, let's just get there.
Oh, he's one of those guys. I got you.
Yeah, and so it was one of those things where, if you if you called out something, hey, there's a Stuckey's or something 48 miles from here, can we stop? He's like, no, we got places to
We got
go.
a schedule. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
or if you had to go to the bathroom, that was like a moral failure. Like,
Oh
Dad, I
yeah.
hate to tell you this, like, we just went 1,700 miles. Like, what are you doing? We were always in a hurry to get there. Just I was more about just getting it over it.
I
I
got you.
guess as we got a little more relaxed and financially we got better, some of these vacations got to be a little more extravagant. Like we took I think our biggest one ever was we took this giant pilgrimage to Mount Rushmore, and we hit a bunch of like the Indian territories, like in South Dakota and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And I just remember, all I remember mostly about that trip is, miles and miles of corn. And we had like an 82 Grand Prix, and we were all stuck in the back. I had two younger sisters, like a year and a half younger than me. And being back seat by yourself was probably a luxury. But when you had to fight for uh, territory or attention or anything in
Yeah.
the back seat, because this was a screen-free generation. We didn't have an iPad to kill our time. We had nothing. We basically had AM radio, or whatever. We were at the mercy of what our parents' tapes were they were listening to,
Yeah.
and that could be pretty monotonous. So we kind of ultimately resorted to like the road games. Mike, remember the road games you would play, like
Oh, like license plates from different states and
and
stuff like that.
I Spy and the proverbial slug bug, which generally
Oh yeah.
caused more problems than it solved. But
Did you ever do the one where you like if you saw a cemetery on your side of the car, and you got would count cows, but then when you saw a cemetery, you had to bury them, and whoever had the most cows seen on their side of the car would win? Or is that
no, we
just me?
never did that.
Okay.
No, yeah, that
You
that's
and
just kind of
I was
morbid.
just thinking, my dad too. His worst habit was turning the station right when a good song was coming on, and you were powerless in the back
Oh,
seat. You know,
good as you defined it, right? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like I think about cars now that have their own DVD players, and you can
Oh,
plug
yeah.
in like headphones, and listen to your iPod while they do whatever up front. But yeah, I mean, you had to listen to that, whatever AM station or top 40 FM station was playing, and
Uh-huh.
my dad didn't abide anybody who talked. Like if it was a disc jockey that uttered more than three words, he turned the
Yeah.
channel. It's like, no, no, stop talking. And then you turn. And it was like, but Dad, he was getting ready to play, the new Wings
Yeah.
song. What's
Right.
wrong? He just couldn't do it, and it was
Yeah.
so frustrating.
You learn not to appreciate the magic of AM radio in some of those situations. So
Oh, I know.
I'll never forget this. My mom was really into the Police during that giant South Dakota trip. And if I to this day, when I hear anything from Zenyatta Mandata, that album,
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to take that tape and smash it over my mom's head. I love her to death, but she has complete. I mean, we must have listened to
Oh,
that thing at least 14,000 times.
oh my gosh.
If I hear that radio on the radio to this day, I'll still freak out a little
That's
bit. Like I'll
funny.
I'll be in Sioux City and I'll think, oh my God.
Uh,
So yeah, so that was a great trip. I mean, we got to see like the Crazy Horse Monument. We saw a lot of Indian reservations and stuff like that. But I remember the driving there was fun. The driving home, like when all the fun has exhausted and we kind
yeah,
of ran
you
out of
just want to get
money,
back.
we just had to get back. And I remember that just being probably the most agonizing 18 hours. I think we drove the entire day just to
Oh
get
yeah.
home. And we just coasted in on fumes and gas money give out in Gurney. It
Oh
was one of those
man.
things where we had it with each other at that point. Even as a little kid, I just realized that, hey, there's something about a social dynamic keeping people, cooped up in that kind of a little tiny cell for that long is just not inherently very healthy.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I remember our biggest trip was when we rode out to San Francisco, and it was, it took like 4 days from South Carolina to get there, basically. But we saw a
yeah,
lot of stuff on the way. But on the way back, I remember, after staying on the West Coast for a few days, we just wanted to get home. And I remember my dad seeing a sign for like Boise. And I was 19 years old, and he's like, I guess he thought I was dumb or something. He's like, Boise, look, that's the capital of Idaho. I was like, no, duh. And I was one of the angriest I've ever heard him get was at that moment. And
Uh-huh.
like I said, for some reason, memories of being on the road are a lot stronger than memories of being at home. And
Yeah.
that memory, he had this look of rage on his face because
Yeah.
at that point I was sitting in the passenger seat most of the time, and I was his navigator. I would tell him where to
Uh-huh.
go. I would look at the map, and I thought it was kind of cool. But when he said that, and I know he was just trying to tell me a fact, but I shouldn't have. I always felt bad. I think I even told him later on,
Yeah.
like years later. I was like, "Hey, Dad, you remember that?" And he had no memory of it. So I was like, "Oh, good. I'm glad you don't remember that."
Got a little out of order yourself.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
insult him a little bit, Mike.
I was a smart ass. I still am. Can't
Well,
help it.
I mean, it's fair because I mean, the dad here is tasked with a lot of responsibility. He's got his family, everything he's worked for
Yeah.
and cares. His whole life is in that car. He's going somewhere he probably doesn't want to go, but feels obligated to go. And that shortens up tempers quite a bit. And I remember I
Yeah.
was always safe because I knew if I sat behind my dad, I was kind of out of range of the arm that would swing back and
Oh, he did that. Okay.
if he could stay out of the range of that the peacemaker, so to speak, would swing by and shut people up.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, because my sisters and I, we were relatively amicable for most of these trips, but they were twins.
Come and play with us, Daddy. Forever and ever and ever.
So they had this bond that just kind of shorted me out. And there, I don't know if you remember the old school cars. The axle was in the middle of the car, so they were in the middle seat. There's this big hump that you could never be comfortable, like
No.
sitting in the fetal position here the whole time, and like
And
you'd
you
have,
always any bump was magnified anytime
yeah,
you were in the back too. Like every bump you felt was a little bit more in that back middle area.
yeah, and of course seat belts weren't even considered at
No.
that point. That was no big deal at all, right? And
Did,
I remember the air conditioning was pretty much a luxury, and it was never really employed, even though we were driving in the middle of August,
oh no.
on the plains of the Midwest. It was really more of a luxury than a right. And our basically our air conditioning was, hey, Dad, can you roll down the window a little more? But it was so terrible. But
Did you
our
ever
big go ahead.
oh, did you ever have a friend or like a relative that had a station wagon? And
Oh yeah, yeah,
oh yeah, we didn't have one, but like I remember just the anarchy of being in the back of a station wagon and just the kids just got in the back of one of those and just no seat belts, no nothing. He just played around back there and just
yeah.
run basically just it was just like I said, just chaos in the back seat.
Yeah, it was like a rolling nursery. Like that back seat was like fair game because you're out of your father's reach for one thing,
Yeah, for sure.
and the physics of the way those cars are designed there, like every little bump back there, you would go airborne
Oh
pretty
yeah,
easily
you would hit the ceiling easy.
because those old cars weren't really big on suspension. So, but yeah, so if you weren't getting car sick or passing out, we were ultimately like hoping we'd get to stay in a motel. And for us, that was we didn't care where we were going. We just liked the fact that we could possibly potentially stay at a motel, and of course get to swim in the pool. Like that was our big thing.
Oh yeah, we didn't have that. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
so
We always. My dad went. He was a Holiday Inn guy. He would always say.
yeah,
Every time he would quote the same commercial that said, "The best surprise is no surprise," and that was the Holiday Inn motto.
right.
And he was like, "You're not going to do wrong if you go to a Holiday Inn." So he would sometimes venture to a Howard Johnson because they had the restaurant built into the hotel,
Right.
but the Holiday Inns typically didn't have the swimming pool, so that it was always disappointing. It was
That was
but
like our only real takeaway was that pool. For some reason, we thought
yeah,
that was like the end all be all. And I remember one time we stayed at a motel that didn't have a pool, and we had the audacity to complain to our dad.
no, no,
And he very politely explained to us what we could do with our, grievances. But because we get one room, we'd all be in there, and I would be relegated to like the cot because I was like the younger boy. So I was always sleeping on like a Motel 6 cot.
yes, this is the
Just
best.
awful, just awful. But it was, I guess, ultimately, as we got a little more financially secure, I remember we took our first trip to Florida. We flew there. Um, And I remember just even as like a 13-year-old realizing, the logarithmic step we had made culturally by getting on a plane Midway
Yeah.
Airport in Chicago and flying down to Orlando and we're going to the Epcot Center when it's like $25 a ticket. I think now it's like $400 a ticket for a day. But
That's about close. That's about
but I,
right.
I remember just thinking that we were just getting on that plane and flying somewhere. That was 4 days in the car, or a 3 hour flight.
I know. It's crazy.
It's just to this day it just freaks me out how much air travel has really changed the travel experience, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I have a son that he does not like flying. So whenever I take him somewhere, we go by car and he
yeah,
love it's such a different experience just stopping at all these hotels and restaurants and just bypassing the flight, but it's also you think I had that same thought in my head. It's like, wow, I could have been here in 2 hours. Why did I just drive 12 hours to get here?
yeah. It depends on your priorities. I'm like, if you've got these
Yeah,
destination things, like if I have to go see family, I want to fly. But I've
yeah.
always, I guess again, it's a nostalgia podcast. Spoiler alert. I guess the older we get, the more inclined you are to kind of going to go back. And I've had this urge for several years to like want to get in my car and take a drive somewhere, And
Yeah.
again, it's the old cliche. It's not the journey, it's the destination. I mean, I want to go start seeing some of these things
Oh yeah.
and put the top
Flyover
down on the
country.
car and just drive through, don't take interstates, take rural routes and just go through towns and the sights and the smells even of like cities and the areas you drive through have a unique smell that you don't get
Yeah.
anymore. And I kind of miss that experience a little bit. But I guess there's something to be said for, the family bonding, I guess, if nothing else, that you kind of put yourself through. I mean, if you can spend 3 weeks in the car with your family without killing each other, I guess in a way it sort of builds bonds.
It does. Yeah, and it's fun. Like I said earlier, I'm trying to recreate some of these trips like my dad took with my kids, and it. I'm amazed at how much we saw, and how much you could
Yeah,
see just by stopping and at these little places and like you say just get off the interstate. I mean, you can get on the interstate and go 75 miles an hour and just make some great time, but you think of all things, all these little towns you miss, and like you say, just little landmarks that are here and there. And yeah, there's just something romantic about that. I guess that's why people think of like Route 66 so much and all the
yeah,
landmarks people used to see on the way from like Chicago to LA. And it's just these roadside things are, hey, they're nostalgic now, and they're trying to recreate that with places like Bucky's or south of the border, where you
right.
stop and you stay a while, kind of places. But
Yeah.
it's just not quite the same. But yeah, it's still there.
Like those places that put out the landmarks that it's only 400 miles away, and they put that sign
Yeah.
up every 50 yards, right, to make sure that you. And we actually stopped in a couple of those, and as a kid, that the payoff is entirely exponentially bigger when you own one of those places
Oh
because
yeah,
they've got everything. As an adult, you walk in, they say this is a tourist trap. You know,
yeah. Yeah,
it's a bunch of crap. They just put a cheap
I
label on, and
know. That is the one thing you do see as an adult. You kind of see behind the curtain, like, wow, Stuckey's really isn't that fun, or
yeah,
that fireworks store really isn't that big,
yeah.
You do.
These fireworks suck, and this nut roll tastes terrible. What a
Exactly.
ripoff. Oh, but yeah, again, I think it's the nostalgia impact because I remember you mentioned Route 66. The town I grew up in, Central Illinois, Route 53 was the old Route 66. It literally drove through my town. And back then, we didn't make that big a deal out of it. But I've gone
Hmm.
back and looked at Google Maps through my old neighborhood, and I can see like they have commercialized the crap out of that. So
Oh yeah.
every restaurant has got like a Route 66 logo on it. It's been recognized with natural. At the time, it was just places we went. We didn't give a crap about it. But all those neat little things that are on that road that I just took for granted when I was a kid, I can't think of anything I'd rather do than go back and make that drive again.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The iconic, all those landmarks on Route 66 that I just took for granted as a kid, I would love to go back and see.
Yeah, and you think about, let's bring this back to movies. You think of all the movie scenes that are still shown even to this day with diner scenes. You could
Yeah,
seem like every other movie has a scene where showing like a roadside diner, and I mean,
yeah,
Even that is honestly hard to find, and
Yeah,
that's what you think of when you think of like Route 66 or like places like
yeah.
that. It's just that nostalgia kind of bait.
Yeah, in fact, one of our claims to fame in the small little town I grew up called Braidwood, the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, that famous scene where those aren't two pillows.
Oh yeah.
When John Candy and Steve Martin, that hotel, that motel they stay at, they call it the Braidwood Inn, was a place that I knew about, and I used to deliver pizza to, and I delivered pizza there. It was when I was a delivery pizza guy. It was right on Route 66, and our town shut down that day that they filmed there, and Kevin Bacon driving driving on that road was something that we got to see get filmed. It was so cool. I mean, again, that again, talk about movies and travel and the travel experience and things like that. Just doing as many movies as we do, especially there's no greater genre I think than the road film. And I think I wish they would make more of them. They did it a lot in the 40s and stuff like that, and every once in a while they'll make like Rain Man is a great example. Like
Yeah.
Dustin Hoffman had developmental disabilities where he couldn't be on the interstate, so they had to drive him on these back roads.
That's right.
And just to see them go through all those little towns and stuff like that, and there's something nostalgic about it, but also something I think because you've been through that experience in your life and you can relate to it, it really harkens home. It's not something you just fly over. It's something that's there, and it's tangible, and really kind of a lost relic in American culture, unfortunately. So,
So true. Yeah.
yeah. Well, we don't want to go on too long because the
Wow.
more nostalgic we get,
Yeah,
the
I'm gonna
more sad
cry.
we get. And of course, today's Super Bowl Sunday. We don't want to miss the big game, Mike.
Oh yeah. Who are is it Mariners
Who's in it
playing the
again?
Bruins?
Something like
Celtics.
I watched 6 hours of pregame and I still don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I'm lost.
All right, so we hope our little discussion at least triggers some memories to our audience about your particular travels, traveling across the U.S., being in the family car, and we hope that you remember the good stuff and the bad because that's all important. So, if you have any fun anecdotes or memories you'd like to share, please hit us up. You can hit us on our Instagram page. That's at Grumpy Nostalgia. You can also check out our webpage. That's called grumpynostalgia.buzzsprout.com. It's an archive of all of our movie podcast shows, and there's a little section about me and Mike. You can check us out there. We have a YouTube channel that no one listens to, so
Oh no.
help yourself, no problem. But we're going to be doing some more of these shows here in the coming weeks, so we thought the family car just sounded like a fun experience to talk about. So if you have some other topics of the nostalgia of yore that you'd like us to maybe hit on, don't forget to hit us up on that as well. You can also send us an email if you're one of those old folks. You can send us an email with your suggestions to nostalgiagrumps@gmail.com. So, Mike, it's time to gas up the car and head out. Any final words you want to say to our audience before we head out of here today?
Should I watch Sure Thing or Are We There Yet?
I will turn this car right around. All right, so for Mike James, this is Justin, and we'll see you again next time.